Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Irish Sports Daily Friday Happy Hour Show brought to you by irishsportsdaily.com. I'm Greg Flamong. That is Tyler Wojciak of Locked On Irish. And look, we're just hanging out. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk Notre Dame football after the bye. Feel like we haven't really we were just talking before the show. Like, man, it feels the bye always feels like it takes months and not just 1 week. Because once the season starts, like you get into the rhythm of the season, and 1 week off feels like so much longer. So we're going to get back into it. Notre Dame's got Stanford tomorrow. I think everyone has the 2022 game on their mind a little bit, at least, and just the horrors of what that experience was. Notre Dame's hoping to stave off an upset there. So we're going to talk about that. I've got some buy or sell props for Tyler to go over. I see you've got your Cleveland hat on.
I do.
We both of us. We got a big game. We got big games coming up. You've got when is your game 5? When does that take place?
So they actually just flexed it. It was supposed to be Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I was thinking, man, that's going to be right around the same time as Oregon, Ohio State. So I'm going to be going from that Notre Dame game right into a game 5 playoff game. But they actually just switched it because it looks like there's going to be some bad weather in Cleveland. So now they play at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So my slate tomorrow it's going to be awesome. I'm not complaining. It's kind of almost like a sports utopia this weekend. It starts tonight with Dodgers Padres game 5, and then you got all kinds of great stuff tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be watching most of the Dodgers game because my son and I are going to the Hans Zimmer concert that's out in crypto tonight.
That's awesome.
I'm a big Hans Zimmer guy, and I play Hans Zimmer for him every night before bed. So
I've seen Hans Zimmer live. It is an experience.
Where did you see it? Where did you see it?
I saw him at Coachella.
No,
I swear.
I nearly went to that. So I went to the 2 concerts in LA. So this is 2019, and that he was at Coachella. And I was telling my wife at the time, like, man, imagine if COVID happened like a year earlier and I had missed it. I would have been just despondent, right? Because I love him. I've loved Hans Zimmer since I was like 8th grade, probably. So playing for my son, we're gonna go see him. So I was gonna go to Coachella, and then they announced shows in LA. They did 2 actually. They did one or like early, like April, and then they did another one in August, I think it was. I went to both. I love it.
It'll be a great time.
So that's what we're talking today. Just talking about things that come up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this show. If you haven't already, got some comments in the chat. We're going to get to those. But first, Tyler, we've the holiday season's coming up. You want to get a jump on it? Go with ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. Over a decade of making the best custom clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt or bomber jacket, or the perfect tuxedo for galas and holiday events, check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD and get 10% off your entire purchase. Give yourself and your loved ones the gift of style. All right, we've got some score predictions in the chat. Oscar Vamos Iris says 44-10 Notre Dame. Chris Walls says 48-7. I assume Notre Dame. If he's predicting Stanford there, that's going after it. Rob Wozniak says 34-10. That's close to mine. I've said 35-10 on the thing. Have you done a score prediction yet?
Yeah, I did 45-7. So me and Chris Walls are pretty similar.
Okay, so we're all kind of in the same boat there. We're going to go over some of that in a second. Coach Humph has a season update. So we did some over-unders earlier on another show. Greg, you and Tyler both took the over at 7.5 for the number of 40-yard running plays this season. The total currently stands at 5. So we're on track to hit the over. We both said that it would be closer to probably, like, I think, what did I say? 12.5?
Yeah, we both said double digits for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we're not halfway there yet. But this is a big game for it. This is a big game for the over-under prop on 40-plus yard runs. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that throughout the thing. Thank you, Coach Hump, for keep us
I love that.
P's and Q's on that. I had forgotten about it. So we'll go over that. All right, let's do some buy or sell stuff. Let's see, which one do I want to get to first? All right. This one is kind of related, right? So let's do buy or sell. The passing game eventually gets there. Now, you might be asking, what does eventually gets there mean? Good question. What I mean by that is like you go into every game and you feel good about the passing game. They're going to throw for like 200 plus in every game. They haven't thrown for 200 yards yet this season, which is
really not one time. Not, I know Leonard had not. I guess I just thought maybe Purdue.
Riley Leonard has not. Yeah. I mean, maybe against Purdue they did as a team, but
still,
Riley Leonard, they do not have a 200-yard passer so far in 2024. So there's a buy or sell on your end. The passing game eventually gets there. 200 yards plus every game. You're confident in the passing game.
I am confident that they will eventually get there. I think we'll start to see it this weekend. And yeah, I just looked at that Purdue box score. Notre Dame did have 216 passing yards. They really unleashed it that game. Riley Leonard had 112. Steve Angeli had 100 on the dot. I'm optimistic, and I feel like what Mike Denbrock said in the press conference this week was not for nothing, because he has been so brutally honest about where the offense was at all year long. And the way that he was talking about Leonard and the advancements that they had made in the passing game makes me believe it. And I also think that they have a perfect opportunity going up against Stanford, who is one of the worst pass defenses in all of college football. Like, if they can't do it this weekend, then it's probably not going to happen. But I think that we're going to start to see a much improved passing game this weekend. They also have the bye week to self-scout. I think they can figure out ways to scheme guys open a little bit more. I think you and I have both been pretty critical about the fact that, like, this new Notre Dame wide receiving core that was expected to make this giant leap, but they just haven't made it. And obviously the quarterback is partially responsible for not getting them the ball in good spots, but the receivers also have to get separation. They haven't really done that a ton up to this point, but I think we're going to see more of that, and it starts on Saturday.
We'll see. You know, it's hard to answer. Actually, you didn't say buy or sell on this.
I'll say buy.
You're going to buy it. All right.
I'm going to buy
it. You said 45-7. You got to think like you're predicting, like, I don't think they're going to run for like 400 yards or anything like that. Like, I think if they are to score 45 points or even 35 points for that matter, like they do have to do some things in the passing game. I don't know how confident I am in it, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if the lack of, because like Jamie and I were talking about first down passing, first down success rate and things of that nature. They're at 4.7 yards per attempt on first down. They have 5 first downs, or 5. They've thrown for 5 first downs on first down. So, that's not good. But they do have 28 completions. Like, you're not throwing the ball in a manner that's going to get you a first down, right? Like their completion percentage, or their not completion percentage. Well, their completion percentage is 65%. So Riley Leonard 65% on first down. So it's not like he's missing a bunch of people. The other part is that their yards per completion is only 7.8 yards. So they're not really trying to throw for first downs, right? Like they're not putting themselves in position to be a very good first down passing team because of just the nature of what they're trying to do. Stephen Wilson, always Irish, always says the score will be closer than we think. It's not a bad take, right? I mean, that's when you've got a Marcus Freeman team that's a big favorite, taking that sort of stance is not a it's unfortunately not going out on a limb, right? Like we could be here after the game on Saturday or tomorrow. It's another struggle bus, you know. Greg Wasserman says if it hasn't happened after 5 games, the passing game won't be happening. Actually, I disagree with this. I want to get your take on that. Just that comment right there. Do you agree with that? And if you do, tell us why. And if you don't, tell us why.
No, because I think 5 games is just it's like an abstract number in the sense of like, think about how Notre Dame started this season, right? Going up against Texas A&M. Their whole game plan was to not throw the ball downfield very often. And the passing game was meant to be very short. So that was a very specific game plan for the season opener. Then in week 2, they tried to air it out against Northern Illinois, we all believe that Riley Leonard was hurt in that game. So just because they struggled a little bit early on, given those circumstances, doesn't make me think that eventually they can't figure it out. Now, I'll agree with Greg in that I'm never going to believe that Riley Leonard is going to be chucking it for 300 a game.
Yeah.
At that point, no, that's never going to happen this season. There's never going to be a game where you're like, wow, Notre Dame just decided to air it out. They're throwing it 50 times or more like they did in the Fiesta Bowl with Jack Cohn a few years ago. So I agree with Greg from that standpoint, but the idea that they can't improve incrementally as the year goes on, I just don't agree with that. And I think that it can get to a point where it's like, we're not fully satisfied with it, but we're content with it. And it's like, all right, at least the passing game is an asset for this offense.
I think in some circumstances, Greg Wasserman's his comment is correct in some cases where it's like, if you have a veteran team, like you have a veteran quarterback and you have a veteran wide receiving core in terms of playing together, if it's been 5 games and that's not clicking, then
yeah,
I'd be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, if Riley Leonard was in year 2 with this offense and it's not like he missed
practice,
all
there'd be a little bit more, but like he hasn't been in the offense. Mitchell Evans is coming back from injury. Like he barely has played like more than 40. He's played for more than 40 snaps one time. Bo Collins a transfer. Jaden Harrison's a transfer. Chris Mitchell's a transfer. You've got a lot of new pieces there, and not just that, but Mike Denbrock has to think about what do I have on the offensive line, right? They've obviously gone through a ton of changes there. So there are things that I don't want to like definitively say that's what's holding the passing game back. Maybe it isn't, right? Maybe they're just not going to be good for the whole year. I'm very open to that idea. But I'm saying there are some circumstances that make me think, this could change, right? And it could get better. I think a good example is the 2021 season and Jamie and I talked about it a lot on Thursday and maybe a little bit on Tuesday as well about, go for the first part of the 2021 season. I mean, the passing game was a disaster and they couldn't do anything. I mean, prior to in the, I think it was game 5 or game 6. I can't remember exactly how the games went with Virginia Tech and when that game was, but I mean, Jack Cohn looked unplayable. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they were going to bench him for Tyler Buckner, and that was going to be the end of it. Tyler Buckner turns his ankle on an interception, and they reinsert Jack Cohn, and then he has the 2-2-minute drills that end up winning Notre Dame the game. They go into the bye. They come out against USC, and the offense has changed. They're getting the ball out quick. They're throwing a lot more RPOs, and suddenly, it's like a viable offense, And granted, they started to play worse teams, but then so is Notre Dame in the second half of this year in terms of defenses as well. So there's reason to believe that there's something there.
There's a ton of parallels with 2021 because I also think that this team could end up going 11-1. I'll be like, they're pretty good. You know what I mean? Just exactly how I felt about the 2021 team. Like that was a good team, but no one was going to confuse them with a national championship contender. And you're right. You look at that schedule, oddly enough, people forget, and I forget this too, Jack Cohn looked awesome against Florida State. He had 9 incompletions, 350 passing yards. Like he was dealing in that game. And then after that, the whole offense just fell off a cliff up against Toledo, Purdue, Wisconsin, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech for most of the game. And then, as you mentioned, they go into the bye week. They come out totally revamped offense. The passing game specifically was much better the rest of the way.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying yes or no either way. You're selling, you're buying it.
You're holding.
I'll say buy. I mean, I said 35-10, right? Like,
yeah.
I think they're gonna throw the ball pretty well in this game. So I'm gonna buy it. All right, let's do the next one. Buy or sell. Notre Dame wins out to go 11-1. Where are you at with this? I mean, obviously, it's like this is a big one, right?
This is a pretty important one.
This isn't like the right tackle is gonna have like a good rest of the season. Buy or sell. Notre Dame wins out 11-1. What do you say?
So I'm so torn on this because I said after the Northern Illinois game, the season's over in the sense that I just felt certain that they would lose another game.
Yeah.
That was pretty open about that. But when I look at this schedule, like I can't pinpoint one game that I'm like, they are going to lose this game.
Mm-hmm.
They should beat every single opponent left on the schedule. So it's hard for me to say sell because I if you ask me, like, gun to my head, who are they going to lose to? I could not confidently say anyone. I mean, maybe Georgia Tech, just because it's at a neutral site in Atlanta. I've been pretty open about the fact that I'm very scared about the Navy game. I still think they'll win that game. So I don't know. It's really tough for me to say, because I do think they're going to drop a game, because this team, and really Marcus Freeman, has given us no reason to expect that they will figure it all out and they will win out and they won't have another letdown game. So it's really hard for me to pick this. So I guess I'm going to say sell, because that has been my stance since Northern Illinois. But I kind of hate that position, because I feel like if I'm going to sell this, I have to give you a game that they're going to lose, and I just can't confidently give you one.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's something that like doesn't make any sense from me. Okay. Just to start the season, I predicted Notre Dame would go 11-1 and lose this specific game.
That was actually, I remember reading that and I was thinking, like, that's a pretty good call. Bold of you to say it, to like attach this Stanford game to your name, but I was proud of, because I did that a couple years ago with Cincinnati and I got so much flack for it. I ended up being right, and that was Cincinnati and Stanford, very different teams.
So the reasoning behind it is like Notre Dame's not. I was like, Notre Dame's not going to go undefeated, and they aren't going to lose a game that that has their attention. And so I picked them to beat NIU, obviously. And so I picked Stanford. Well, they've already lost the game that didn't have their attention. And so I picked them to beat Stanford this week. Well, my instinct is to be like, you know what? Like, the way you lost to NIU like that, like, you're going to lose again. You know, you're definitely losing again. I don't know. Like you just said, I don't know to who. It doesn't matter. You've shown me you'll lose. But like, I knew, like, that was my predisposition going into the season.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I should, if I'm consistent in my thinking, I should say, no, it doesn't matter that they dropped the NIU game. It's the fact of the matter is that I thought they were going to go 11-1 and lose a type of game like that. The difference is that I've actually seen them play. And the fact that they have such a hole right now in their passing game, and just like, not just that, but even if they did have a good game, they clearly have an ugly game in there as well. It's not like there's a pattern of like really good play and then, you know, just one stinker where nothing goes right. Like, sometimes that happens. Isn't really what happened against NIU, you know, because since then they haven't really been that good passing the ball or really even running the ball. I mean, they've run the ball better. That's obviously the strength of their offense, but it hasn't been like they're running for 290 yards, right? So I just think there are enough flaws offensively. I think there's enough like injury problems with the offensive line specifically to make me say like, hey, they're going to drop a game again. They are going to. So that's my stance right now. So I'm going to sell. I don't think they'll win out and go 11-1.
All right, we'll pick one though. I'll pick one. You pick one too. Who are they going to lose to? I'll say Navy. I'll do it. I think they lose. I think that if there's going to be one, it's going to be Navy, because I think they hammer Stanford. I think they're going to beat Georgia Tech. They're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. 6-1. And just think about that game for a second. Noon game, MetLife Stadium, probably going to be like 65 to 70% full. Navy is going to be so pumped. They're going to be undefeated. It's going to be the biggest game ever for those guys. Playoff, all this stuff still in play. And I just think Notre Dame is just not going to come out ready to go. And I think that the loss of Botello, the loss of Traore, having a bunch of young linebackers going up against that triple option team, like, that scares me. And I know some people are a little bit higher on Army, but I just think that Notre Dame will be more up for that game. That's just my prediction. So if I'm going to say they're going to lose one, I actually think the most likely one is Navy, and then second would be at USC. But I guess we'll learn a lot about USC tomorrow.
Yeah, the USC one's tough because, like, I think they're going to lose again too. I'll say Army because they have the better defense. They can actually defend, and like, that's going to be in a baseball stadium, and the weather could be just atrocious. You know, like, it could be bleak. Like, it could be really not
great.
It could be
November 23rd.
Yeah, like that could be, at like the end of the season. Like I don't feel good about
Yeah.
like that
Also, if
situation.
if they only have one loss going into that game, looking ahead to USC, everyone's penciling them into the playoffs. So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess the circumstances in that case going against Army, if things play out, they are still with one loss going into that game. That will be a very scary
And
game.
Army, like they play in a certain kind of way that like that's how you beat Notre Dame, right? You keep them out of the end zone and you hold the ball and then you just control the clock, right? Like the Navy thing, like I understand they're a good throwing team now. That's fine and good, but like Notre Dame wants them to throw.
True.
Please throw, right? Like please throw the ball. Like that is what Notre Dame wants. So I just think Army is like a better matchup. Like maybe Navy beats them, but specifically to the way Notre Dame is built and the way that other two teams are built, like I think they'll do it. I mean, I'm sitting here like Notre Dame never plays well in LA against USC.
It's true. They never do.
Let's do Vamos Irish here. Buy or sell, a non-starting offensive player breaks out after the bye. So you would be talking about, let's just go over some candidates. To go over Eli Raridan is one. Jadarian Price is one. You would say someone like Jaden Thomas. I don't know. How do you consider like Jaden Harrison is one. There's I don't know what you consider Faison.
Yeah, he's technically a starter.
He's technically a starter, but he's been hurt. Like Chris Mitchell's getting all those snaps. Let's say he's a non-starter just because of he's hurt and stuff. Do you buy or sell this?
I do buy, just because that happens even on bad years. Like usually there's a player who doesn't do anything in the first half who ends up having a really good second half. Last year, it was Jordan Faison. He was not even on the scholarship roster in the first half of the season, which as more time passes, that still makes no sense that Jordan Faison was not dressed or ready to play against Duke last year when Notre Dame had only like 3 guys that they could throw out there. So yeah, I'll buy it. And I'm going to go with, I honestly probably would have picked Cooper Flanagan if he had not gotten hurt. I'll go Jaden Harrison. They've been trying to use him a little bit more.
Yes.
I think that it's pretty telling that in that spot against Louisville, when they needed to play, they ran that great fake rub route. You hit Jaden Harrison on the wheel. It's interesting to me that play went to Harrison and not Greathouse. There are other options that Notre Dame could have gone with there, but they were like, Jaden Harrison could take this and take it for a touchdown. So I think that they're going to try to feed him the ball a little bit more in the second half.
This might be a case of like, what's the breakout, right? I'm keeping my eye on someone like KK Smith or Micah Gilbert. There's no intel on this. I'm keeping an eye on that situation. I've got my tentacles out, checking out what's going on there, because I do think there's an opening there to the field, and I just like those two guys physically, like Micah Gilbert specifically. Like I just think he's a good looking player, and they talked about him in the preseason like he's kind of like the 7th, and like, why can't he be the 6th, right? Like, why can't he do some things? But like, I don't know that he's going to have like numbers, right?
Yeah.
But like,
he's barely played at all.
Either of them, right? KK Smith or Micah Gilbert. So like, but like any sort of contribution from those guys would kind of be like breaking out. So we're keeping an eye on that. Rajon says Eli Raridan. It's possible. They just like,
especially if Flanagan's hurt.
If Flanagan's hurt, that's true. But they need to get like Mitchell Evans, right? Like they need to get him going, right? Yeah. Like that's the guy that they need to keep in their mind and trying to get him involved. I'm really sure what the issue is with them, because I was looking at his pass blocking numbers versus, because the idea is like, well, they're using him more in line as a blocker in the pass game to supplement the offensive line. And that was really only a thing against Louisville. They haven't done that in like any other game. And I mean, he hasn't been out there that much. Like when they put him out there, it's just to run routes. So I don't know. I mean, that's something that Notre Dame's got to get going, because people assumed like he's going to be like an All-American caliber player. You know, like he's going to have a good season and he'll go on to the NFL. Like, I don't know how he can go on to the NFL right now. I mean, I don't know what his eligibility situation is. My sense is that he definitely has at least one more year. So
yeah,
we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. All right, let's go to the next buy or sell. Let's keep it Notre Dame centric here. All right, buy or sell. Notre Dame needs to have Marcus Freeman on the Dabo plan. Now, what I mean by the Dabo plan is he went a number of years before breaking out as like a really good coach, them having like a really good team. And let's say Notre Dame goes like 10-2 this year, or they go 9-3 or something like that. Let's say 9-3. Because like they lose one more game, it's like 10-2, you're not on the hot seat. You go 10-2, right? People will be disappointed, but no one's talking about like your job security, in my opinion. I think 9-3 you would get there, right? Do you think in the event, let's say they lose to Army and USC, which would end the season with 2 straight losses, that would be not good. That would be really not good. And they the bowl game situation would be a complete disaster. Like there would be so many opt-outs of that game. It's like hard to fathom. But do you think that they should hang in there with him and just say like, you know what? No, this is our guy. We're not going to extend him, but this is our guy. We're going to see it through. We're not trying, don't even think about, we're not even thinking about letting him go. We are going to see this through with him. We need to build something with someone. Do you think they go with that plan? Buy or sell?
After a 9-3 finish?
Yes.
I think they would. I think that's the route that they would take. I don't really see Marcus Freeman getting fired or anything where that's even a conversation unless they just completely bottom out in the second half. And it's reminiscent of 2014, because I think what happens there is it would lead to so many more moves. I think that a lot of players would transfer. I think that a lot of the coaches on the staff would leave, and then you'd basically be picking up the scraps after a 7-5 season. And at that point, it's like, what is the continuity? What is the benefit of keeping him? I don't think that would be as drastic as after 9-3. I think 8-4 would be incredibly disappointing. I think that there'd be some serious conversations about him being on the hot seat, but I still don't think that they would make that move after 3 years. I mean, also like he could potentially have the excuse of injuries because it has been a really unfortunate run. Yeah. I know we're going to get to that here in a second, but the Dabo plan specifically, I mean, they gave him a lot of runway. I'm looking at his coaching record right now. So he becomes the interim coach in 2008. They finished 4-3 with him, which, I mean, you can just completely write that off. He's the interim coach. Then they go 8-4, and then they win the bowl game. They go 6-6, and then lose the bowl game. They go 10-3. So in his third season, that was like his first real jump. They lose the Orange Bowl. And then that's when they really started going. They go 11-2, 11-2, 10-3, and then lose in the national championship, win the following year. So, I mean, it worked out for Clemson. It's easy to say, yeah, it'll just happen again with Marcus Freeman, but I just don't think that Notre Dame has that kind of patience, whereas Clemson was in a totally different state back then. They are certainly not the Clemson that we know of them now to be today. So I think Dabo was afforded a little bit longer leash because he was at Clemson, which is not a school in the national spotlight, whereas like Freeman's struggles are so loud. You think about it, like they went 10-3 last year, and it still felt like a really disappointing season.
Yeah.
I think everyone could feel the same way. So he didn't win 10 games until his 4th year as the head coach. I just think that the Dabo plan, it's not apples to apples necessarily. So I don't think that Notre Dame should have him on that plan. Just given the constant turnover that's happening in the sport. Like as they continue to disappoint, I feel like eventually they'll reach a breaking point. If that were to happen, obviously we're saying all this on the basis of like Notre Dame does not end up finishing the second half really well, but there's obviously a way they could win out. And then this isn't even a discussion.
It's interesting about the whole like Marcus Freeman conversation. Like they bring up like now people bring up like, hire that first year head coach, right? Like you had to, their first time head coach had to hire their first time head coach because you needed to keep the recruiting class and all that stuff, right? And then you look at Marcus Freeman. Well, the other option was wait around for Luke Fickell. Does that look like a good idea right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Like does Wisconsin, are they firing you up? Like are they moving the needle for you, right? Are the juices flowing on Luke Fickell right now? Like they're not, So it's just like I think between those two, you would have to say like Marcus Freeman was the better choice, right? I mean, obviously we can't know how Luke Fickell would have performed at Notre Dame, but it would have been a lot harder because they would have had a lot more defections and
the Luke Fickell thing. Once he hired Phil Longo to run the air raid, I was like, what on earth? Like, you are going so far away from what's made you great at Cincinnati. How about this though?
Or what made Wisconsin great?
I've actually been thinking this. I have yet to say it out loud. I'm going to do it here today.
What could it be?
So let's say things go really bad for Notre Dame, right? I was thinking, like, who would they even look at? Like, who would be like the slam dunk home run?
Oh my God!
This is not a slam dunk.
If you go there, I'm going to fight you. Go. Say it.
What if Notre Dame tried to get Kurt Signetti?
No.
He's not far. He's just down the road.
Listen,
he's just down the road.
No. That's nothing.
In Indiana.
No. I thought you were gonna say Deion Sanders.
Oh no. I'm not pro Deion.
I was about to kick you out of the.
That would be fair. I would kick myself out. But I was just thinking about it. Like, who would be the targets? Because I'm with you. I'm out on the Fickell thing. I mean, unless he turns it around. And I like Luke Fickell. Would have been happy with him. But you're looking around the landscape of college football. Alabama, like, that's arguably the best job in college football. They ended up with Kalen DeBoer, who I think is a great coach despite the loss of Vanderbilt. But, like, you're looking at all the options.
Despite the loss to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, which shout out Clark Lee, baby. And Diego. I love that quarterback. But it was kind of a good reminder of, like, man, like, even Alabama, like, I could poke holes. I mean, dude, they almost hired Mike Norvell. And he's who knows how long he's going to last at Florida State. So I don't know if there's a ton of great options. So, you know, I was thinking about Signetti and what he's been doing. It's so early.
Why is that? Isn't he older?
He is older.
Isn't he like 61 or something?
He's just such a crazy character. But I'm just thinking of like a coach who's been ahead. Yeah. Wow. He's 63. Damn.
Yeah. He's old. He's old.
Yeah. He's too old. What's his 5-year plan? Don't die. Yeah, that's for all you Adam Sandler fans. He's 63. Damn, yeah. So I guess on one hand, you could basically talk yourself into like, oh, well, if he's not going to wait around at Indiana if Notre Dame came calling. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about what would even happen because, again, I still am hopeful that Marcus Freeman can figure it out. We all want Marcus Freeman to succeed. I think the fan base is so behind him, the school, everyone is supporting him. But man, you know, the results are what they are. Yeah. And I think I've seen some people who they just love Marcus Freeman so much that they're able to just pretend like the NIU loss wasn't a disaster. And since every sports analogy has to be involved with dating somehow, that's like you go on a vacation with your girlfriend and you're like, man, we're going to get married. This is the best thing ever. And then the following week, her ex-boyfriend sends flowers to the house. And you're like, that's weird. That is going to make me feel weird. And like, technically you could get over it, but it's always going to be in the back of your mind. Like, what's going on there? So I don't know. I want Marcus Freeman to succeed. I hope that we don't even have to have this discussion at the end of this year, but there's just a lot of football left to be played. And there's a lot of potential landmines for this team.
Did you hear the legend rant on Feinbaum? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yes. After Vanderbilt beat out, but
yeah. Like
that guy needs a podcast.
He said it's like your wife walking in on your wife cheating on you. Like you might stay with her, but I'll never trust you again. And like that's like that's got. I mean, honestly, like that is kind of how I feel about the NIU game. Like I can't ever pick you to like win out or like go undefeated ever because you did it against Marshall and then you did it again against NIU. Like that's the thing. Right? Like I can't look past it. I just can't. I'm going to miss it. Like, and people like, they're going to win out, like find me the loss. They're going to be favored. Look, I can't be, I'm just not swayed by that anymore. I just can't. Like I'm going to miss the undefeated season in terms of prediction because it's just, we've been burned. You burned us twice like this. Can't do it. Let's go to Chief Brody, who is all in. He is all in on Urban. Chief Brody says, if Marcus Freeman bails in spectacular fashion, the boosters will pony up for Urban Meyer. Greg Wasserman's telling him to get over it.
I love that we're still having this conversation. How about this?
And Chief Brody says he's banging on it forever. So let's is there a world where Notre Dame goes in for Urban Meyer, as Chief Brody says, time to be a serious program? What do you say?
I just love that we're still having this conversation. I would have thought this had died with the whole Jacksonville Jaguars debacle, like you would think. I think that Urban Meyer could be dead for 5 years and Notre Dame fans will still be like, Urban, like I just thought we've been so past this. I think the craziest thing is that I just pulled it up. Urban Meyer is 3 years younger than Curt Cignetti. And obviously he's been around in the spotlight. And I mean, he's had all kinds of health issues.
Yeah, but those are the non-Christian years there. He's 60 years old in non-Christian years. He's pushing 70, 75 years old.
I got to be careful what I say because technically we are colleagues. It's not happening. It's just not. And Urban Meyer wouldn't do it and Notre Dame wouldn't do it. And I thought we were over this. It appears that we're not.
Think the things in all honesty, I think the things that prevented Urban Meyer from coming to Notre Dame in the first place still exist.
Yeah.
Right.
If anything, it's harder for him specifically now. Because back then it would have been, you never would have said anything about Urban Meyer. Now it's like,
Notre Dame's a hard job. I mean, it is. It's difficult, in terms, not just from a stress standpoint. And like you are like Notre Dame is pretty open and it's kind of obvious. Like you're working behind the 8 ball. And it's like, and Chief Brody, like he would, let's be real. He would win. He wins everywhere. But like, it's like at what cost kind of thing, right? Like, would he win a national title? Like he won one at Ohio State.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's with every advantage you can think of. And that was, kind of like a unicorn type situation. So, Joel Easton says, I'd be down for Lane Kiffin. I tell you what, like the players, they like Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
College
It'd
football
be
players
fun to watch. I'll tell you that.
That would be like because he's not like scandal ridden or anything like that. It would be such a change in personality of the program. Like that it's hard to picture, but I think he's realistic and like he would do it. And I think Notre Dame would be okay with him doing it, like that would be a, we're going for it type signal. Grab an SEC coach.
Yeah.
Someone like Lane, like offensive centric, right? That would be kind of like a big move.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, we're throwing out all these names, obviously, and I wouldn't even, Marcus Freeman isn't really on the hot seat or anything like that.
No.
Interesting to compare where Notre Dame.
We're drinking and talking about.
Yeah, this is what happens. Pretty soon here, we're going to be like talking about games in 2005 and reminiscing here because that's just how these things go. But like, just thinking about Notre Dame and the modern landscape of college football, how coaching works now. I just think that there were a lot of lessons to be learned from the post-Saban Alabama hiring cycle. They worked quickly, but all the names being thrown out there, Dan Lanning, Sark, Mike Norvell, like you could theoretically poke holes in every single one. So no matter what happens after Marcus Freeman, I don't think there exists like a slam dunk home run hire anymore. So, and that wasn't the case with Freeman. When they promoted Freeman, there were obviously some red flags. And to this point, a lot of those have come to life. But I think that now when you look ahead and different coaching options for any school, like it's just such a different game now with NIL. And not only is coaching such a big part of it, you have to be able to recruit and get the backing of school and donors and things like that. And that is one thing that Freeman does have. Like it does seem like the donors, the school is all behind him, but he's with every loss, that support wanes and wanes. So how they finish the season is going to be so critical to the future, both for him, the athletic program and football specifically, because like how much are people going to want to donate if they've donated in the past and it didn't get them anywhere?
Rajon says, if Freeman doesn't get extended at the end of the season, what do you think that means? Well, it means they've lost at least one more time. if not 2 more times. So that's what that means, basically. I mean, the extension thing is, this is his 3rd year. He signed a 6-year deal. I mean, obviously he wants an extension, but like, I don't think it really means anything. He would have 3 years left, and like, I think he would understand why he's not getting one. And I think that, you know, it wouldn't, it should, well, do you think it would be a big deal?
No, not to me.
I don't think it would be a big deal if he didn't get extended. Like, if he was 11-1, he's going to get an extension. So, you know, if he says he forgot the 6-year deal. Yeah. Like, it's, and I think, Rajon, you probably forgot, because it's been a topic. Like, it was all off season. People were talking about it. And I don't know why. Like, he was in the 3rd year of a 6-year deal. He wasn't even halfway through yet. And he hadn't done anything to make you think, you know what? Like, Notre Dame's better extend him, or else he's going to go to X place. Like, that wasn't going to happen. Like, that was no way. So,
do you think they give it to him if he goes 10-2? So
Chief Brody brought that up. Do you think I think they'll extend him at 10-2 no matter what? No, because they'll miss the playoffs. You can't extend him if you don't make the playoffs. That wouldn't make sense. That would be met with so much like negative press. You know, like that would be a big problem, because people would have a problem anyway if they don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and who are you trying to stop from poaching him? Because
exactly.
Go 10-2, like Freeman kind of lost some. If Notre Dame does end up finishing 10-2, like, he has been pretty forward about like going all in on this year, getting the Peacock documentary, like national championship. You're in playoff or bust. You're in all of these things. That is coming from within the program. So if you are the one saying it and then you don't live up to those expectations, how on earth could you then say, well, now I need an extension? I'm not saying that Marcus Freeman would even do that, but I'm just saying, like, if you're Notre Dame, who are you negotiating against?
Right.
Like, I don't think that there's going to be other big time programs anywhere near the stature of Notre Dame that's going to be falling over themselves to hire Marcus Freeman if he goes 10-2. Like, Notre Dame is the school that has supported him the most. They're probably the only one that would have given him that job once Brian Kelly left. And I think that to this point, like, it's still the best job for him if they go 10-2 or anywhere close to that.
Yeah, like, why would he bypass? He would only be going to a worse situation.
Exactly.
To go somewhere else.
Ohio State wouldn't want him.
Right. Exactly. So that's it's just like it would make no business sense to extend him. I'll tell you what makes a ton of business sense, though. If you have a small business, Tyler, or you have a social media page that you want to spice up, or you have like a highlight reel that you need to get made for your kid or for yourself or whoever it might be, then a business decision that you got to make is at VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Drunk Vigo is here. Love Drunk Vigo. He's the best. Drunk Vigo is like, he just is just saying stuff. He loves to he'll just go out. It's like they're not topical for the show, but like they laugh at them all the time. I love Drunk Vito. I love that.
I've been seeing him in my comments a little bit more.
Yeah, he's good for you. Good for you. All right, let's move off of Notre Dame for a second. Buy or sell. Conference realignment has been a positive this season.
I actually would say buy, because I've been pretty open about the fact that I don't like conference realignment. But in the short term, it will be exciting because you're going to be seeing new games. So just on this exact line, conference realignment for this season, yeah, it's been a positive. Like, I cannot wait for Ohio State, Oregon. I know that they played in 2021, but like, that's going to be one of the most fun games ever. I think Ohio State might win decisively, but like, Autzen is a really, really cool stadium. I was actually at Oregon this summer, and I was there with Fox, and we were having Joel Klatt interview Dan Lanning, and I just walked around the facilities and the campus. It is beautiful there. I've never been able to go to a game, but like I'm all in on what they've got going on over there, even though I think that Ohio State will probably house them. So like there's good games. I mean, Texas A&M at the end of the year is cool, but I just think that long-term, when you're killing other rivalries and stuff like that is the part where I'm out on it. But yeah, for this season, it's been fun.
Look, it's a good time, right? Like Penn State's going to USC. I mean, USC played Michigan, right? I'm obviously Oregon and Ohio State, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas. Who do they have soon?
They got Georgia next week.
They got
which
Georgia
is going to be awesome.
They got Georgia next week. It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I think that is such like. Look, let's be honest. It's a good time.
Yeah. I'm gonna watch the games.
It's good fun, right? It's kind of crazy how. Like I can't imagine. I can't remember a world where it was like not a 12-team playoff now. Like the idea of it only being 4 teams this year is like kind of crazy to me. Like it's insane. I mean, thank goodness, because like Notre Dame is obviously not making anything. They'd be in line for trying to make like a New Year's Six bowl, which like that seems so quaint now. It's like, oh, New Year's Six. So I just look. You have to admit, like the matchups, they're fun and exciting, and it's USC still gets to play Washington. They're still playing, Summit, they're still playing UCLA. They're still playing Notre Dame, even though Lincoln Riley doesn't want that. But you're playing Michigan, right? Playing Penn State. In future years, they're going to play, or they're going to have to play Oregon, and they're going to have to play Ohio State. It's fun. It's a fun time. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying it. How do you feel about like now that, the 12-team playoff situation? Because I'll tell you what I don't like. It's every conversation. Everything anyone ever talks about, it's in the context of the playoffs. I mean, like after every game, where does Notre Dame stand in the playoffs projections? What are they going to do? What does this mean, right? Tennessee loses. What does this mean for Notre Dame, right? Alabama loses. What does this mean for the playoffs? What does this mean for – and like I don't know. Like, I don't know, and I don't want to think about it. Like, I just want to enjoy the season and watch the games. Like, I hate the conversation, right? And that's what I don't like it. I think the 12-team playoff just on its own is probably good. I just wish everyone would stop bugging me about it. I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, to be honest, it basically was the conversation when there was a 14 playoff. So at least now there's more teams involved. And
it's true.
I was pretty against the 12 team at first, but I knew that they were going to go there, especially with all the opt-outs and the fact that the bowl games didn't mean anything. Like it was always trending in this direction. I really hope they don't go to 16. I know that they're going to, but with Notre Dame, I think that after the loss to Northern Illinois, like after they beat Texas A&M and everyone's like, they're going to go undefeated, they're going to be in the playoff, and they lose to Northern Illinois, and then feel like everything was done for. And you and I have talked about this many times. Like, there's not that much juice to this season. And I get it. The loss to Northern Illinois, it sucked. It was embarrassing. But at this point, like a lot of other teams have had embarrassing losses, maybe not quite to the extent that Notre Dame has, but like it happens, right? It's happening all across college football. Last weekend was a perfect example. And I actually basically took the bye week to do like a reset. I'm like, dude, I spent 8 months in the offseason talking about recruiting and the portal and expectations. The thing I love most is just watching Notre Dame play. And even though it hasn't always been that fun, like I am more excited about this game against Stanford than I've been really since maybe the Texas A&M game, because I'm like, yeah, like this team's probably not winning a national championship, but like they're good enough to win a bunch of games. This should be fun. I'm going to choose to have fun instead of being miserable every Saturday when they don't win by 50 points. And guess what, Greg? Even when they win by 50 points, people are still pissed off. Notre Dame beat Purdue 66-7, and people were unhappy after the game. And I'm not even criticizing them. I'm just kind of saying that, like, you kind of are in control of how you perceive this season. Yes, it's going to be disappointing because we all thought that, hey, maybe this team had a real chance of making a run. I don't think that's going to happen, but I still think this team could have a lot of success, and it could still be a lot of fun to watch.
I want the chat why is, and I guess I'm asking the wrong people because all these people are here and participating in our show. So it's not, I guess it's like in school when it's like, how come the people who aren't here, right? Like, but like, why do you think there's because it's true, like there is less juice. I remember in 2022, like when they lost to Marshall and they lost to Stanford after that, like people were upset, but they weren't disengaged. And I feel like people are disengaged a little bit right now. And I'm wondering why that is. Like, so in the chat, so tell me if you feel like you're less engaged or other people are less engaged with it at this point, I wonder why that is the case. Like if I had to speculate, I would say there's a there's the I wonder if there's like a portal thing to it, like because the last 2 years they've had Hartman at quarterback, and then they've had, this year they have Leonard at quarterback, and you feel like it's a dead end, right? They're not building towards anything. Yeah, at least that's the feeling, right? Like it's one thing if you lose, and it's with guys who are like younger, and it's like, well, at least they're like, there's no reason, like the improvements that Riley Leonard makes might not matter because, well, he's just leaving anyway. So you can't, like, okay, Carlos Garza. Let's read this. In my opinion, because we brought in another transfer who we thought was going to be great, and he's not, and the offense has left something to be desired. Like, why get this guy? You still have no develop. It's exactly what I was saying. Like, it's just like it's either great or it isn't. And if it isn't great, then what are we doing? Why are we watching this? Like, I kind of get that, right? Like, where do you come out on that whole like idea?
I think the second part of what Carlos is saying is actually the bigger thing, because he says the offense has left something to be desired. Notice when everyone talks about the season, what's the first thing they bring up? It's how the offense has not been good, which is true. Nobody talks about how awesome the defense has been. So I would ask you this, Greg. Say Notre Dame had the same exact record. They lost to Northern Illinois, but every game was a shootout. Like, it was basically LSU last year.
We don't even have to pontificate on this. What is Notre Dame's what is everyone's favorite Notre Dame season? What is it?
Ever?
2005. Everybody loved 2005. They beat no one who was good. They lost a terrible game to Michigan State. That Michigan State team was booty.
They planted the flag.
They planted
on the field.
But like they could play offense.
Like, and they were fun to watch.
Play offense. They were fun. They were fun to watch. Every week, it was like every time Brady Quinn went back to pass, it's like someone's open. Someone's wide open. You lost the game in overtime. It was like 44 to 41. The USC game was obviously very close. Every other game, there was great offense. Like, you knew, oh, this is like so much fun. We're going to see them throwing the ball all over the place, right? Chief Brody says 2015. That Will Fuller, CJ Procise, Josh Adams running crazy, right? Deshaun Kaiser chucking the ball over the field. Like, those defense, the 2015 defense was not good.
Yep, their biggest win was
defense. The 05 defense was not good, right? But it's like, if you are a defensive-centric program, then you either, like 2012, you either have to win all the games, right? Or it's like, this just isn't fun. And Notre Dame has now lost the game. And I think on top of that is the fact that they have a transfer quarterback, you know? And so it's like the lack of, like, people want the offense. They want the juice. And right now there is no juice. There's no juice on the offense. And that is a problem.
Yep, I agree with everything you've said. And I've been thinking about that lately. Like, why are people still upset? And it's just because it's not as fun to watch. It's not as exciting to watch your defense go out there and dominate and hold Louisville, who, despite their loss to SMU, like, that's still a really good offense. And Notre Dame was really going out there with their backups. They had a starting corner at field corner, and their third safety was playing nickel, and they were shutting down one of the best offenses, maybe not, top 10 in the country, but that is a really, really good offense, and no one cared. If they had put up 50, like if you had taken what LSU did last year, where they were putting up 50 every game, like that Ole Miss game was a joke. LSU would score, and then Ole Miss would score in the next play, and it was back and forth. Great to watch if you're not an LSU or Ole Miss fan. But if that's how Notre Dame operated, if they had lost to Northern Illinois and their defense couldn't get a stop and they lost that game like 42-39, and Notre Dame was just putting it on everyone else on the schedule, like I think fans would look at the season totally differently. And I get it. Like I prefer watching offensive football, but yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. That's why there's no juice. It's because it's such an offensive game these days. And I don't disagree with anyone. Like Notre Dame's offense has not been fun to watch, but it's interesting to me that takes the life out of everything the rest of the team does. Whereas if it were the other way around, you would almost like make excuses for the defense and still think everything was possible just because you could score more points, even though you couldn't get a stop to save your life.
Right. Like, I go into every game and I just say to myself, well, the defense, like how is the opponent going to score 3 touchdowns?
And they don't.
And they don't. They can't, right?
And Louisville did because we gave them 2.
Right. And because they had the ball on the 9
exactly.
and the ball on the 24, right? And that's how they scored 3 times. 3 times. Like the team, if you can't score 3 touchdowns, and it's like I go into every game, especially now against who we're playing, who Notre Dame's playing. I go into a game now. It's like if they score 4 touchdowns, they're winning the game. They're going to win the game if they score 4 touchdowns. And I think Notre Dame can score 4 touchdowns on, let's say, 12 possessions that they have. And then you're just like, okay, like it's easy to pick wins in that case, but I remember the Louisville game, we were talking about it. It's like, man, there's no juice. There's no excitement, right? It wasn't exciting. It was, people were in good spirits. People were optimistic, right? But it wasn't like that tension. It wasn't that like excitement of it wasn't electric, and like that is it. You can't manufacture it. You just have to have it. Right.
Right.
And like you're definitely too young for this, but like the Rocket years, like that guy was the juice.
Yeah.
People
trust me. I've watched it off YouTube. I'm
go
at least familiar.
People go to games just to see him return a kickoff. You know what I mean? And like you do have to have that guy who is like everybody wants. You have to have the guy that everybody wants. Bama wants him, right? Miami wants him. Everybody wants him. But Notre Dame's got him. Let's go watch him, right? Notre Dame doesn't have that. They don't have that offense. And so, but that's the thing.
Your transfer point is good, though, because another question I'd ask, because I asked that question knowing that you and I would be on the same page when I was like, would fans feel differently if they were winning the same amount of games, but they were doing it just by winning on offense and just giving up a ton of points? Because like it hasn't happened in a long time, but it's really not a whole lot of fun when your offense scores and then your defense is getting gashed. Like Notre Dame fans haven't really experienced that because the defense has been so stout for such a long time. Like that is also not a fun feeling when you can't get a team off the field. But another thing, and this is, I would love to see like the honest reaction from a lot of fan bases. So everyone's like critical of the Riley Leonard thing. I understand it has not worked out. I've defended him, but I also can say he has been a disappointment up to this point. Do you think that fans, if I told them, hey, Notre Dame is going to go 10-2 with Riley Leonard, or they don't get Riley Leonard, they don't go to the transfer portal, they go Steve Angeli, and they go 9-3 this season, what would fans rather have?
I mean, they would rather, they would say, well, now they would say 9-3 with Steve Angeli.
Right.
Why? Why would
you willingly accept more losses? And I see Chief Brody's comment. I would take 9-3 with CJ now with Steve. They're not going 9-3 with the freshman quarterback. Like
the CJ
gets
thing
me
is
so
not,
fed up. Yeah.
Like the CJ thing is a non-starter. Like they was.
He is not the best quarterback in that room.
I'll say this right now: if Notre Dame thought they would go 9-3 with CJ Carr, then he would be the quarterback. I mean, he's hurt now, but assuming he wasn't hurt, right? Like, because he's, what I'm saying is, like, if Notre Dame thought they could go 9-3 ish with CJ Carr, I think he would be starting right now.
Interesting.
Yeah, probably. I don't think they can. I don't think they can. It's just they would get eaten alive, in my opinion.
Yeah,
with just the way that the rest of the team is made up. Like, I think there's a difference between, like, I can do good things and I can win a football game. Like, it's a lot more than, I mean, look at Jimmy Clausen in 2007, right? Like, that is a perfect example of, like, look at he did some nice stuff in 2007, not ready, like, not physically ready to do it.
Yep.
It's just it's difficult.
You're preaching the choir. I did this big rant last week, and it was after Deuce Knight decided to decommit. And look, we all wanted Deuce Knight to go to Notre Dame. Let's get that out of the way. Notre Dame would be in a better spot if Deuce Knight had stayed committed and he went to Notre Dame, and then there's a competition next year with, maybe if it's all four of them in a perfect world where it's Angeli, Minchie, Carr, Deuce Knight, best man wins, that kind of thing. But this idea that you're just going to bring in a true freshman quarterback and they're going to light the world on fire, especially right away, it's just objectively false. It's not happened that way. And I'm just going to quickly go through. I did this as, like, top 5 quarterbacks every single year in the recruiting rankings. Okay. Like, let's go through. We'll start with 2023. Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, and then you've got Jackson Arnold, who's not good, Dante Moore, and Malachi Nelson. Malachi Nelson is terrible. Jackson Arnold looks like a bust. Dante Moore was terrible as a freshman, got benched halfway through. And then you've got Arch Manning, who looked good as a redshirt freshman, Nico Iamaleava, who at one point looked really good as a redshirt freshman, and now there's questions about him. Those guys are all older than CJ Carr. They were ranked higher than him, and definitively 2 of them are busts. And, like, I'm not saying that CJ Carr is going to be a bust, but it is such a risk to just assume that just because a freshman quarterback was highly ranked that he's going to come in and be ready to go. Way more often than not, that's false. And I think that CJ Carr is going to eventually be good, but it's going to take some time. And because he's ranked high, no fans want to wait.
Yeah, I mean, you want the chance at something, right? Like, even Riley Leonard, like, people wanted to give Riley Leonard a chance, but then they did, and they saw it, and they were like, no, I don't want this, and get this out of here, right? I want the next guy. I want Steve Angeli, and then I want Kenny Minchie, and then I want CJ Carr. Like, you always want the lottery ticket, I guess, and that's what Deuce Knight is. Like, he's the lottery ticket. And the other part is, like, I think the thing with Deuce is people want the recruiting win as well.
Yeah. You want to win over Auburn and Ole Miss,
yeah,
which I get. I get that.
Right. Like, no, for sure. I'm just saying, like, I think it's okay to be unhappy. I think people should just be aware of, like, what it is you're actually unhappy about. You're unhappy about the fact that you lost this recruit, and recruiting is supposed to be a Marcus Freeman thing. And so it portends, like, obviously they're going to be low ranked, right? They're not going to have a good recruiting class in terms of the rankings. And so then it makes you think about, like, the whole operation at large, right? Like, quarterback position they should be fine, right? They should be fine. Because they're going to get someone who's good. Like, a lot of people like Kenny Minchie, right? Like, people are talking about Kenny Minchie in the chat right now. Like, they got Kenny Minchie because they missed on Dante Moore. They can get a good quarterback. It's not that, right? That's not the problem. It's just that you want the guy. I mean, you had a 5-star, and now you don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Dante Moore had to transfer to a place where he'd be the backup, because I think even he realized, hey, I probably should develop a little bit, because anyone who watched Dante Moore as a true freshman, he was awful. He had 3 pick sixes in, like, his first 3 games. And I would also venture to guess that a lot of the fans who are calling for CJ Carr to start right now would probably have preferred Notre Dame taking Dante Moore over CJ Carr, really, just because their ranking and they like some of their highlights better when they were in high school. There's no way for us to tell who is going to end up being better in college. And I just think that the quarterbacks who walk into better situations, guys who can wait, they can develop, they're going to have a lot more success. Like, Greg, these are the top 5 quarterbacks in 2022. Cade Klubnik, Connor Wigman, Ty Simpson, Drew Aller, Walker Howard. Top 5. Like, how many of those guys? And these guys are juniors now. Like, none of those guys are that great. Now, 2021, different story. Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, awesome. Sam Heward, Brock Vandegrift, mid. JJ McCarthy, good. And won a national championship, mostly because of his team. That still hurts me to say that I have to call JJ McCarthy a huge hit. But you get my point.
Asterisk.
Like, you go through these classes, and just because a guy's ranked in the top 5 does not mean that he's going to be good. And I understand that CJ Carr looks good in spring practice, and I think that he eventually will be really good for Notre Dame. But he's on the scout team for a reason, guys.
Yeah. No, like it's hard to be the quarterback who is responsible for wins and losses. He's responsible for them, because there are some teams maybe you could have got away with it. Not this team.
Yeah.
Not this one.
Defense is too good.
With the offensive line, what it is, you can't have a true freshman quarterback and a true freshman left tackle who didn't really want, right? New receivers from the portal, like it's not like you have a bunch of established guys like that. Some seasons it could have worked. This is not the one.
Yeah.
The
and I guess
2015 line, the 2017 line, maybe it could have worked. Not this one.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I just look at it one way, and like there was this discussion with Sam Hartman after the year, and it was like, would Notre Dame have been in a different place if they had just gone with Tyler Buchner? And I said, yeah, they would have lost more games. And then some people would counter like, well, yeah, but then he's your quarterback next year. And it's like, okay, but if you lose more games, it could stunt the development of the program. Like the idea that if Notre Dame just decided to not get Riley Leonard and they go with Angeli, and say with Riley Leonard, they go 10-2, with Steve Angeli, they go 8-4. It's like, well, yeah, they're building up to next year. But all of a sudden, the vibe around the program is so different because, yeah, the one guy who's playing the quarterback position might be better off next year, but you're probably not going to get as many good transfers because they're like, why would we go to that team that just went 8-4 last year? Like, wait, yeah, that guy played and he's going to be the quarterback again. But like, I don't want to go there. But if it's a school that's consistently trying to win as many single games as possible, it's not a perfect solution. Yeah, obviously sometimes it'd be great if you could develop the quarterback, but I am of the boat that you should try to win as many single games every year that you can. And I think that is better for the long-term future of the program because more people are going to be bought in. They'll donate more money, easier to get transfers, easier to get recruits. And I think that the idea that developing guys is actually better in the long term is actually not true, because when you lose games, those losses matter a lot and it changes the whole perception of the program. But some people disagree. That's fine. That's just kind of how I feel about it.
I mean, look at CJ Carr got hurt as a scout team guy.
True.
He got hurt as a scout team guy, right? Like it's which isn't anything, like it's not a negative. I'm just saying, like there's not really evidence that he would have made it. He would have survived. Still.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We're going to be talking about this forever, quarterbacks.
Carlos Garza, kind of new to this channel's live show. You guys are doing great stuff. Thank you, Carlos. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe. Hit the notification bell. So whatever as we're going live. Rajon asked if Angeli wasn't number 2, would he have left? Yeah, probably. Probably would have.
Yeah.
Probably would have. Devil's advocate, when your passing game isn't up to snuff, wide receivers in the portal and recruiting are going to say the same thing, though. Why would I go there if they can't pass? For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's catch 22, right? It's a catch 22 on that, and it has been for such a long time. All right, Tyler Borgman. Tyler and Greg, what is your opinion on what Notre Dame should do specifically at quarterback position to get over the hump, especially if they don't take a transfer next year? To be honest, Notre Dame needs to just ride it out with Denbrock. He is a good coach. He will eventually get the pieces that he needs, and they will eventually, like, he has developed a good offense where he's been. He just has. I think they just need to be patient, right? They have the guy that they want. Just keep him around. And this is kind of what I was getting at with the Dabo thing with Freeman. You got to build something. You got to build continuity. Look at the Notre Dame's defense. It was not great in 22. It was very, very good in 23. And now it is very, very good in 2024. They hung in there, right? I think that's what Notre Dame has to do in this situation. Tyler, let's call it a day. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. Tyler is on the Locked On Irish podcast. He is releasing shows weekly. He does an instant recap. When he's not at the game, he'll do an instant recap show. You got to check him out. He does great stuff. We're happy to have him. He's my good friend. He's in LA. That's what makes these shows possible. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please hit the like. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Soon, whatever it is, we are going to go live. And that will be tomorrow, right after the game. Jamie and I will be doing an instant recap show. So catch us there. And catch me on Sunday doing my morning after recap, talking about the game. Thank you, everyone, again, for tuning in here. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll talk to you after the show. Keep hitting and hustling.